Mark Rogers TV talking Ohio State football with Brandon Zimmerman from the Buckeye Battle Cry. We focus on the defensive front for the Buckeyes, especially considering the issues that were presented by Oklahoma's running game and Baker Mayfield throwing the ball downfield and scrambling himself, and the D tackles, the D ends, the entire front, Brandon, really stepping up for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both talked about it last week, how we were a little worried with the defensive tackles after Tulsa just seemingly was able to run the ball up the middle at will there in the first and second quarter. You go to the Sooners and you've got two great running backs. So defensive tackle was a big question mark heading into this game. And I thought the defensive tackles played an amazing game. If you go back and rewatch the game, I mean, there were so many times where Michael Hill and Rob Landers and Draymond Jones, occupied 3 or 4 of the offensive linemen just by themselves and left all 3 linebackers just back there to roam free and step up into all the holes and shut down Mixon and Perrine. So the defensive tackles, I thought, were kind of the unheralded bunch that played an amazing game on Saturday night and really allowed the defense to play the game that they did.
Anytime you get a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown, it seems to swing momentum for the game. The Buckeyes had scored on offense on a short field to go up 7-0. Then Jalyn Holmes made his presence known with a deflected pass that resulted in a pick 6. But it just wasn't that play, Brandon. Obviously, you were there at the game and pretty impressed with how Holmes kind of popped out off the what would be the game tape, but being in person there and watching his speed in person.
Yeah, Holmes was the one guy on defense that really stood out to me more than everyone else. I mean, Lattimore had a great game. Baker had a great game. McMillan played good, but Jalyn Holmes seemed like he was they just could not stop him. No matter where he lined up, he was constantly getting pressure on Mayfield, which I don't even think he actually got a sack because Mayfield's just so hard to bring down. He will run the ball back 15 yards and just throw it 30 yards downfield before he takes a sack. But Jalyn Holmes, the deflection, just running down, Mixon, he just looked really good. He was easily the best defensive lineman, in my opinion, Saturday night, which is pretty cool when he's coming off of the bench. So, I mean, it says a lot about Sam Hubbard and Tyquan Lewis, too. You factor those two with Jalyn Holmes and Nick Bosa, and the Buckeyes have a pretty formidable quartet there, that they can bring in.
In future weeks, obviously, it's going to be Corey Clement of Wisconsin, LJ Scott of Michigan State before Michigan is in the finale. Jordan Lynch onto the NFL from Indiana. I can't think of the back that's replaced him, but the Hoosiers have given the Buckeyes all sorts of fits in recent years as well. So the D-line, more tests to come.
Oh, yeah, there are more tests to come. And the Hoosiers, you bring them up. It seems like every year the Hoosiers are the one team that's able to put up quite a few yards on the Buckeyes. It was just a few years ago where they needed Jalen Marshall to have his breakout game because the offense just seems to have the Buckeyes number for the Hoosiers. So we've got that game coming up in 3 weeks, I think. So
it's
there's
easy.
A lot of
exactly. It's easy to dismiss, but Zeke Elliott had a huge game, but the defense was run ragged all over the place by the Hoosiers in Bloomington last year, and they were at the 4-yard line to try to win the game or tie the game. It was 34-27 last year. There was, the Jalyn Marshall game where it was 21-20 in the fourth quarter before he made a couple big plays in special teams, and there was a 52-49 game, I believe Urban Meyer's first year, that 2012 undefeated team. So almost every year recently, Indiana, despite what they've done elsewhere, has given Ohio State fits. And this is a Hoosiers bunch that gave Michigan fits, taking them to overtime, and played a really good game against Michigan State. So we won't discount Indiana this year on the schedule.
They are like the Purdue, from the mid-2000s, where no matter how bad they were, they played the Buckeyes good. So that game's coming up. Even after the bye week, they've got Rutgers coming up, and their new coach is Chris Ash. So former D coordinator for the Buckeyes. So they've got some tough games. I mean, Rutgers and Indiana are not the best teams around, but they could both pose pretty good challenges, especially with the tough part of the schedule coming up. I mean, all it takes is for a young team like this to overlook one team, and it can get ugly pretty quick.
Brandon, we love the personal breakdown. Enjoy the discussion. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thank you, Mark.